Hey Toy fans, I'm D21Beast and welcome back to my figure review series here on my YouTube channel. And today we're once again looking at those Marvel Legends Infinite Series Spider-Man Wave figures. And before you, we've got what surely Tom DeFalco's pride and joy, the Mayday Parker version of Spider-Girl. Now, if you're not familiar with Spider-Girl, she did first appear in 1998's Marvel's What If number 105, which was released in February, and that character proved so popular from that What If story that very same year in October, she got her own comic book, Spider-Girl number 1. Now, Spider-Girl was created by Marvel mainstay Tom DeFalco and artist Frenz, and she's from the MC2 Universe, which was really one of the first expanded universe or parallel universes that Marvel played around with, even before the Ultimate Universe in comics. In the MC2 universe, Mayday Parker actually replaces her father Spider-Man as the hero of the day, fighting many of the children of the villains that Spider-Man had once faced. Now, Spider-Girl's comic book did run for a long time, but lately you can find her in the pages of Spider-Verse. I was really impressed that Hasbro decided to give Mayday her own figure after all this time. Let's go ahead and get things started by taking a look at the packaging on this figure. As you come down the front of this box, you do have the Build-A-Figure Hobgoblin logo in the upper left. You've got the logo for Marvel Spider-Man there towards the center. You then have a window box packaging that does house this Spider-Girl figure inside, as well as her Build-A-Figure Hobgoblin pieces. We then see the logo for Marvel Legends Infinite Series, and finally, the bottom of the box lists this as the Warriors of the Web figure. Spider-Girl is actually swap packed with the Ultimate Spider-Woman figure that I've already reviewed from this same wave. Flipping this package around, in the upper left, you've got the Marvel Legends Infinite Series logo again, as well as the Marvel Spider-Man logo in the upper right. You'd have a bio for these Spider figures. Go ahead and pause now to read that. Then below the image of Spider-Woman and Spider-Girl, you once again have that Build-A-Figure Hobgoblin emblem. And then you have a complete list of all the other figures currently available in this wave, as well as what their Build-A-Figure pieces combine to create. We have Hobgoblin off there to the left. Alright guys, well that's the packaging. Let's say we get Mayday out of her box and see what she's all about. Alright Toy fans, here we have Mayday Parker out of the box, and the first thing I want to mention is that this figure is largely a reuse of the Ultimate Spider-Woman figure that I recently reviewed. But Mayday has the advantage of not having the sort of open hand and fisted hand like the Ultimate Spider-Woman has. She's got these two web whipping hands, which is really great. Also, while I did like the sculpt on the Spider-Woman hair, I didn't like that it interfered with articulation, and Mayday doesn't have that problem because there's no hair sculpted on the figure. So with those points out of the way, she has the same sort of proportions that we saw with the Ultimate Spider-Woman figure, both in the legs, the torso, and the arms. And she's the exact same body mold that we saw with the Jubilee Build-A-Figure, and even the Spider-Girl figure that was released as part of last year's Marvel Legends line. But I think it's an excellent reuse of parts, but we still have the problem where articulation's kind of an issue, and we'll get to that later in articulation. But looking at the paintwork on this figure, I think it's largely pretty clean. The spider on the chest is just a little messy right there on that leg, but otherwise it's very clean lines around the figure. Interestingly, you can tell that the figure was actually painted. The lines on the figure were painted as her arms were up like this, because that actually completes the lines on the hinge of the shoulders. So kind of interesting that they chose to paint the figure that way. And when you bring the arms down, it does break the line work a little bit, but it's not too bad. Flipping the figure around, you have some more of that great clean line work on the back. The head looks really, really nice. I'm very happy with how that turned out. And then there's some very nice black lines here on the fingers for the hands. Really just everything that needs to be there to replicate the Ben Reilly Spider-Man clone costume this Spider-Girl figure has. I'm also a big fan of these sculpted web shooters on the wrist because that is comic accurate, and they didn't just paint that on, they actually did a separate piece for each wrist, so a nice touch there as well. So overall, if we set articulation to the side, with the paintwork, the sculpting, and the size of this figure, a very good representation of a teenage spider hero. Mayday comes with the accessories that you see here. We've got the Build-A-Figure head for Hobgoblin, as well as the wings for the Build-A-Figure Hobgoblin. We'll look at those more in detail as we take a look at that Build-A-Figure, but then Mayday doesn't have any accessories at all. Just like Ultimate Spider-Woman, it's just the figure. Now with Ultimate Spider-Woman, I did wish that she had had whipping hands. Mayday actually comes with those, so while we don't have interchangeable hands for Spider-Girl, I don't feel like we're missing out as much of this figure. As for articulation, we can see that this Mayday figure does have a head that looks down very far and looks up very far, and the head rotates all the way around. We've got a shoulder joint that rotates all the way around and bends out and up from the body that far. There is no upper bicep rotation, but there is a rotation that's a bit tight here at the elbow. And then a single joint that does bend down that far and back that far. There's also rotation at the wrist that's a little tight for some reason on this figure on both wrists, and I don't want to force it. But then her hand does bend backwards that far and bend forward that far. I do wish the wrist articulation was a little bit looser. I'm kind of worried it's going to break. But then she has this sort of diaphragm joint so you can kind of wiggle around a little bit. She only bends forward about that far, not really that far at all. And back that far, a little bit better. No waist articulation. Her legs do move forward this far. They move back, not so far. Out from the body, not terribly far. She has upper thigh rotation. double jointed knee, which collapses very nicely, and then she's got a foot that does move up that far and down that far and has that Hasbro ankle pivot. So, same complaints with this figure that I had with the Ultimate Spider-Woman. This body mold was just not designed to be a spider character. She's got a decent amount of movement, but being that she's a spider character, I do wish you could get her into some more Spider-Man or Spider-Girl-like poses. That is a bit of a disappointment with this figure. Height-wise, we can see that Mayday Parker does stand right about 5.5 inches tall. For some size comparison, here she is once again compared to the Ultimate Spider-Woman figure, also part of this same wave of Legends. Here she is compared to some other teenaged female superhero figures we've received from the Marvel Legends line. Here she is compared to some adult Marvel Legends female figures. And compared to last year's Amazing Spider-Man 2 figure from the Marvel Legends line. And finally, here she is compared to the 6-inch scale Marvel Legends Infinite Series Wolverine. Can't believe Parker was allowed to reproduce in any timeline. Hey! Alright, toy fans, well that's my review of the Marvel Legends Infinite Series Spider-Man Wave Hobgoblin Build-A-Figure Series Spider-Girl figure, released by Hasbro in 2015. Overall, like Ultimate Spider-Woman, this figure's a bit of a mixed bag. If you're a fan of Mayday Parker Spider-Girl, or a fan of the Spider-Verse storyline, you probably want to pick this figure up if you're a completionist just so you can complete those displays. But if you're not into either one of those storylines, really you probably want to pass on this figure. Her articulation doesn't really work out for being a spider character, and she's not featured prominently in any other storylines to really justify being added to your collection. Personally, I find as much to like about the figure as I find to dislike about her. But your mileage may vary. Well, thanks for watching this review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you saw here, please feel free to rate, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.